You want to switch?
So in my project, I chose the Baghdad site, and primarily what I'm interested in and focused on is the idea of the animated figure ground through the use of green screen. So for me, my color of choice is green. And so I'm using the idea of multiple precedents, and I'm extracting these simple figures from each project that I'm then using to operate on a scale of individual buildings that would form a campus composition. And so for the animation, I had these stills, so I would sort of hang these foam models, and then I'm using the green screen and masking tape as a way to sort of form almost these subtraction elements, which is what we're not used to doing with the green screen. We're used to superimposing elements rather than removing elements. And so these are starting to form ideas of collage of the volumes, and how these could be ultimately seen as a plan. So my question for you is, in your lecture, you slowly talk about and introduce the significance of each of the primary colors, but what is the significance of the color green to you? I know you use it in the terminal project to represent it, and you save it towards the end, so it's just a curiosity of mine. I'm using it as a compositional frame, which is also something you talk about. So, could we as architects truly break away from the anxiety of the field or the site boundary, which is slowly starting to introduce the idea of my site, which is here. So this is the original site boundary, which is really, really tiny. It's about 13,000 square feet. And so my proposal is to occupy this huge courtyard, the adjacent cultural center. So through like almost forming these bridges.
When did the technique of the green screen enter into the thesis? In what sequence?
That was the first thing I started with before.
And did you imagine how whatever that technology is, how it would affect what you're doing? Because how does it most dramatically affect what you're doing? You have typologies, that doesn't have to do with the green screen. You've got collage and placement, which doesn't have anything to do with that. You're asking me about green, which could have all sorts of other connotations to it. So your presentation's very much a collage.
Yeah.
You know, at that level. So I'm most interested in whether or not the green screen is going to be an instrumental driver, or whether it's a little beginning trope that you leave behind. What's the answer?
For now, I think the issues with it is that it doesn't really relate to the site that much, because it's just an open field when I'm introducing these objects into just like a blank canvas almost. So I feel like moving towards the boundaries of the site is where I'm having the issues with where do I push this forward? Do I continue with the green? Is it really significant towards the project?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about the technology of the green screen is that you can use it for any effect. You can use it for a comedic effect, right? A person running, through a city, but they're a giant, right? Or you can do it in a way where, like in film, they're seamlessly placed into a city in the proper scale with the proper shadow and so forth, right? So it can be super funny and disruptive and odd, or it can be, seamless in a way. And if you think about that conceptually, it's the same question that has been asked about that site or about Korea. how much difference is there, should there be in my design? What does that say about the city? What does that say about my identity as a designer? What does it say about progress in the future? And, you know, they're kind of big, important questions in terms of the thesis. If I understand it, you're taking the site as being the idea of a limit or a boundary, and you want to exceed that. The green screen is only just a limit or a boundary based on rooms and sizes and techniques and studios, but it's meant to be infinite,
Yeah.
right? So I'm a little bit at a loss about either A, what does it mean conceptually, or B, what you're doing with it in terms of making the video to transform the material. But there might be a link there, but I'm having a hard time kind of connecting it as an instrumental thing versus it just being, here's an analogy for my project, right? The green screen. In which case that would just be one analogy, but it wouldn't necessarily be what you'd lay your whole project on. And I probably don't have time to answer the green question.
Sorry. You have to cut it off there.
Because